Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Blissed? There we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. If you'd like to give us a call, 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. Alex is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. Dr. Shealy's with us. Dr. Shealy, are you blissed?
Yes.
Yeah, we had a little difficulty this morning. Thank you for calling the farmhouse, but I don't know why we weren't able to answer the phone in Minnesota. But here we are. So thank you so much. Dr. Shealy, Sonny Skidmore wanted to chat with you again. So Alex is trying to get in touch with her, and she has been receiving therapy, and she wants to regain use of her body and go back to work ASAP. So we'll be connecting with her this morning. I had a couple questions for you, but is there anything that you would like to share with us before we get started?
Well, I just had a trip to and from Dallas, and it was as bad as Chicago. First time, but it was really an unbelievable mess, boy, arriving there and leaving there. So it happened.
And why would you say that? Why would you say it was like that?
I don't know. I mean, they landed at E terminal. I had to walk a full mile to another terminal to pick up my bag. Then I had to wait 30 minutes to get a van to take me to the hotel. That was getting there. Coming out, they changed the gate twice. They changed the plane twice, and they were an hour late. And then my bag I waited 30 minutes for my bag at the carousel, and it turns out they had delivered it in an earlier flight. I had to go to baggage claim to get it. So that's the kind of thing that happens in Chicago every time I go through there, but never in Dallas before. Anyway,
I was at the last time I flew into Las Vegas, and the connecting flight, getting on these little trams that you ride around from one. I don't even know what you call it. I guess terminal, but you have to get on a little train to get there. And it's miserable because you really don't know where you're going, and it's pressure because you don't miss your flight. It's awful. Flying is awful today. At least my last experience was.
However, I'm here, and that's okay.
Well, that's wonderful, wonderful. I had a couple questions for you. One question was, I take magnesium lotion, actually spray, almost every day. And when I say almost, what I do is I'll go for a week, and then I'll go off a day, and then back on for a week. Is that something that I do that intentionally? Is that something that you would recommend, or just stay on it every single day?
Well, I've been on it every day for 20 years, and twice a day. So
okay. And the reason I was asking is, does your body need a rest? And the same thing would apply.
You need magnesium every single day of your life.
Okay. So it's from now on, that's easy to, because I would have to intentionally stop. And what about for vitamins, minerals, and supplements? Do you recommend a day off every once in a while, or just keep on going the same routine every day? Okay. All right. We were talking about hypothyroidism, and I've been thinking about that. And one of the things I believe that you mentioned was people become tired, or if they are hypothyroid, they are tired, right? Isn't that one of the symptoms?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, and just about everybody I know is tired, and I'm wondering how.
80% of people largely because of fluoride.
Huh.
Fluoride destroys the pituitary and the testicles, but other than that, it's not so bad.
All right. So if 80% of humans are hypothyroid, should they detoxify from the fluoride?
Well, if they've already got it, it may never recover because the thyroid has been really seriously damaged. But everybody should detoxify from fluoride, whether or not they're hypothyroid.
Okay. And how do you recommend we detoxify?
Well, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Avoid fluoridated water. Don't drink it.
Right.
And
But it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to avoid it, and I'll tell you why. Let's say a person has a beer, once in a while. The beer probably has fluoride in it from the city gym.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Well,
Okay. And then if
half a bottle of water has fluoride in it.
Right.
It comes from city water.
Mm-hmm. So if you have bread, and they make bread in the city, they probably use city water to make the dough. If you have soup out of a can, it probably has fluoride in the water from the city. So I'm trying to think, even if you had pasta, which we don't recommend, but even if you did, they probably make the pasta with water that has fluoride in it. So I'm trying to think of how do you get away from it? And I don't think it's possible.
It's a universal poison.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so to detoxify, what would be your recommendation if a person wants to detoxify?
Well, the simplest way is saunas, and if you actually rub castor oil over your entire body and go into the sauna for 20 or 30 minutes, that is the single easiest way to detoxify. But you need to do it many, many, many times.
So we're talking about just sweat it out.
Yeah.
Okay. I bought an ultraviolet light that I use for testing for leaks for air conditioning systems in our automotive shop, and I decided it's a little pen light, and you can buy these on eBay. Of course, you don't want to look at the light directly from the lens of the little pen light or ultraviolet flashlight. But I've been looking at all kinds of things, and you can shine it on your floor, and you can see bodily fluids, from your pets, on floors, on surfaces, outside on your deck, all over the place. And so I shined it on my skin, on the top of my wrist, and what I saw were these little tiny dots that kind of glowed. And that's telling me that those dots are sweat. And so all over, I mean, it's like universal micro speckles all over my body. Do you think that's what I'm looking at, Dr. Shealy? I'm talking about just little, not even a droplet of sweat. I'm just talking about, like a needle point amount, like all over. Is that what you would expect to see?
Well, it's some kind of immune problem. I mean, it is an immune deficiency of some kind, or you wouldn't get that.
Ah, okay. So what would I do? How would I figure this out?
Well, I don't know. What do you think the cause is?
Oh, I don't know. I'm wondering if I have a condition of hypothyroidism, because I took some iodine. I took 1 drop in a glass of water. I felt better. I took 2 the next day. I felt better. Took 4. Felt better. More energy.
The best way to diagnose hypothyroidism is your oral temperature. Once you've been out of bed 3 hours or more, it should be 98.6. Now, I won't make the diagnosis until it gets down to 98.2 or 3. But if it doesn't get up to 98.6 within 3 hours of getting up, you're probably hypothyroid.
Okay. And then what do you do about that?
Well, if if you catch it early, stimulating the ring of fire and taking just a little bit of iodine, basically 150 micrograms a day average, or 12 milligrams a week, it will restore thyroid function in some people within 4 to 6 weeks. If that doesn't work, then you're stuck with having to take Armour Thyroid.
Okay. Within 4 to 6 weeks. Okay. 4 to 6 weeks. And is there a blood test for any of this?
Well, unfortunately, because of fluoride in the body and in the lab, you cannot distinguish between trifluorotyrosine and triiodotyrosine. So the lab tests are a waste of time and money now, because the lab tests will come back okay, but actually it's because the lab can't distinguish between fluoride and iodine in the gland.
Okay. All right. Very good. And let's see. We've got Sonny Skidmore. Welcome, Sonny.
Yes, Vincent, I probably are limited with time, but I've got a few questions for Dr. Shealy. I know he's a very intelligent person with lots of experience, and I'd like to ask him for these, since they have amputated my legs. The kneecap is still there, but the man with the prosthesis in this town says it'll be metal way up to the hips, and it's very difficult. Do you know a lot about these prostheses?
Hello?
And Dr. Shealy, were you able to hear Sonny Skidmore?
I didn't hear it well.
Okay. What she said was she was amputated up to the knee, but she has her kneecap, I believe you said. Right, Sonny?
Right.
Well, yeah, and this fellow with the prosthesis seems to think the kneecap is lower than it was. I don't know if they could move them or not.
Well, it is easier to do a prosthesis if the knee is still there. But a prosthesis can be done either way.
Well, he claims that it has to go up to the hips, and there'll be a lot of metal to work with. I don't know whether there's different types of these with different manufacturers. I would think so.
Oh, yes. And, you know, there's a very good prosthetic company here in Springfield. I don't know about, where you are, but the prosthetic people should be able to determine whether it's possible to do it either way.
Well, this gentleman has been around here for 35 or 40 years, and I don't know just a lot about him. I just know that he's got a store here. But I was just thinking, there are various kinds, I would think. Some would be better than others, or easier, wouldn't you think so?
I would hope so.
Well, do you know of any have you used any of those companies?
Well, the only one I've used is here in Springfield.
And were you successful with that?
Yes.
And was that on the knees or the hips?
Well,
Sonny, can you stay with us? We're going into a break. Can you stay with us, Sonny?
But I can't, because the therapist is here and another lady wants to take some things. I would like to call back.
All right, we'll call you back. That's Dr. Norm Shealy's with us, normshealy.com. Dr. Shealy, you've been saying for as long as I've known you that exercise is so important. And yet there have been studies where right now the vast majority of adolescents around the world are not getting enough exercise. So the ages of 11 through 17, children currently don't meet the recommendations of at least one physical activity per day. So what is that going to do to the body if we flat out just don't get enough exercise? And they're saying that this is related to the computer technology, the cell phone technology, and their thumbs are getting exercise, but the rest of them really aren't. What is this? How is this going to manifest?
Well, it's going to increase the risk of diabetes, the risk of heart disease, and early death. But other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, the play goes on.
And it doesn't seem like it's too hard to fix, because I remember when I was in elementary school that, we would have gym, and there'd be exercise in gym class. It'd be 45 minutes of gym class a day. Then there would be recess. After lunch, we'd play on the outside the school and get some sunlight, and that's what we did. And then when we came home, before we did our homework, we'd go over to somebody's house and we'd play, softball or baseball or something, and we would do something and be running around, and then we'd come home and do our homework. I mean, that's the way it was. But I don't think that's the way it is now. I don't see people in their backyards throwing a ball. I hardly see people even walking their dogs. And if they do, they're not walking very fast. I mean, they're just barely able to get moving.
Well, it's not just teenagers. 90% of people at all ages do not get adequate exercise. 90%.
And according to what I've read,
is a minimum of 90 to 100 minutes every morning, 7 days a week.
Okay, and some people say that you should exercise and then skip a day and then exercise and skip a day, but you don't do that. And what is the reason that nonsense? Okay. Because
the only reason you skip a day is if you overstrain yourself.
Okay. And Mrs. Finelli has started to say, well, Sundays we should take a day off. And I'm thinking, yeah, but the cows don't take a day off. Nothing else around here takes a day off. Why should we take a day off? And besides, nothing will get done on that day, and we just flat out can't get it done with 7 days in a week, let alone 6. So I don't know. I think that from my perspective, being active is where it's at. Absolutely, where it's at. So 73% of countries have found out that their young people are not getting enough exercise. Flat out, that's what it is.
Exactly.
And I believe that the cell phone has been one of the single most detrimental things to our society that has ever been created by man.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
It's a plague.
When okay, how about this? How about people who they keep their cell phone next to their pillow at night? Now we can let's just throw out the electromagnetic dangers from that. But how about this? So somebody is awake somewhere in the world that wants to contact them and sends them a text or calls them up. Because, well, heck, everybody's 24/7, almost everybody's 24/7 on tap today. All right, so their screen lights up blue, and they look at it to see if it's, important. And by looking at that screen of blue light, what does that do to the mind and the circadian rhythm? What does it actually do?
Well, it ruins it. That's the kindest way to say it. It ruins it. Screws it up.
Mm-hmm. So so what would one phone call at 1 o'clock in the morning, let's say a person has normal sleep habits and is in bed by 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night, and that cell phone screen lights up at 1 o'clock in the morning, a couple hours later, what damage has been done, if any? Well,
it interferes with your diurnal rhythm, which means your cortisone, your adrenaline level, your serotonin, everything. It screws you.
Okay. So tomorrow morning, let me ask that question when we come back. We're going into a break. Class Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. And my question was, okay, so we go to sleep at 10 or 11 o'clock at night in whatever our time zone is, and we have a normal routine, and the phone lights up at 1 o'clock in the morning, and the phone's next to our head or on a nightstand, and we go and look at it because it buzzes. And when we do that, what does that do to our body? And in the morning, when we ultimately do wake up and we race off to work, can we be at 100%? if
No,
that
you'll
happened,
be
just
lucky to
that
be at
one
50%.
instance. Yeah. Yeah. That one instance of just interrupting our sleep, looking at the blue light, will put us at 50%. Okay, or
And then
less.
all night you've had
What?
that crazy electromagnetic damage to your brain as well. Remember, the instance of brain cancer is doubled just by use of a cell phone. Wearing it all night must do more than double it.
And I don't understand. I mean, I understand what you said, Dr. Shealy, but what I don't understand is why people feel the need to sleep with their cell phone. I got to tell you, if Mrs. Finelli slept with a cell phone, I'd be furious. Absolutely. There would be, you could see the smoke from your farm. Because
I'd have to have a different bedroom.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is I would feel that I would be in competition with that darn phone.
Well, you're right.
And why should some device be more important than a life mate? You know,
Well,
a husband or a wife. It absolutely right. But that's
that
what's
phone
happening.
is not necessary when you're walking down the street. It's not necessary when you're driving. It's not necessary ever unless you are an emergency on-call person all the time. That's the only time, if you have a job that requires it, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recommend it, but at night, but that's okay. I wouldn't take that job.
No, I wouldn't either. So that brings the next question. Normal workday for many of us, if we have jobs, would be typically from 8 to 5. That means you arrive at 8 and you leave at 5. So that probably means, you're on your way to work at 7 and you return home at 6. So 8 to 5 would be a normal work day. For those who work a different shift, like the night shift, they usually get paid a little bit more to work the night shift. What does that do to the body compared to the regular 8 to 5 type?
Well, it gives you about the same risk as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day.
Okay, so now we have, just working the night shift for that extra couple percent is going to shorten your life 7 years maybe?
Yep, you got it.
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing I used to do intentionally, it's not quite like that, but I would have vacation days. I'd get like 10 vacation days a year when I worked for, the big, giant corporation. And what I would do is when everyone else took off, for holidays like, the day after Thanksgiving or the day before Thanksgiving or the day before Christmas, or 2 days before Christmas, or, I would go into work because it was so much nicer because everybody was gone. But that's different. So I was on vacation at work because nobody was there because everybody else was, following the herd. But that's different from working the night shift. Now, okay, let's add a little more complexity to this, Dr. Shealy. So working the night shift will damage your health. What about working, changing shifts? Like, say for a month you work.
Yeah, same thing. It is totally damaging.
Okay. Then what, all right, what I was saying is, let's say you work shift number 1, which we'll call it, the regular 8 to 5. Okay. Then a month later, you work the second shift. And then a month later, you work the third shift. And then a month later, you're back to the first shift. So you're in a rotation.
That's the
where
worst
you work
of all.
3 different shifts.
That is the worst of all. That's probably equal to smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day.
Okay. Then the next question is, I know people who work 12-hour shifts and maybe even more. They'll work 4 days a week, 12-hour shifts, instead of 5 days a week, 8-hour shifts. Is there a difference in working the 12-hour shifts?
Well, in general, there's a reason that one of the most sane things the world has ever done is choose a 40-hour work week. It is 40 hours means 5 times 8 hours. That's the healthiest of all. Anytime you deviate from that, it's increasingly unhealthy.
Okay. Now, in my life, and those of us Finellis that live at this farm, we don't have a real schedule. I mean, in the mornings we'll feed the cows, and in the evening we'll feed the cows, but it's not at any specific time. And we actually work when we feel like it, and if we don't feel like it, we don't. I mean that really is that's the way it is. However, we're not lazy. We do work, but sometimes we have to work into the evening because, well, something has happened. A storm has come in, the fence has been blown down, or there's flooding, or is some kind of anomaly. And we normally have a regular schedule. We repair vehicles and equipment, during daylight. Sometimes we have to work into the evening, but we choose to do that because we think we should do that. Is that damaging to us as much as to other people who have to do it because they have a job and the boss says, you will do this? Is it different?
I don't think so. Now, if it happened every week, maybe yes. Mm-hmm. But if it's once or twice a month, I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what it is. It may be even just once a month. But, during the winter, things happen. We have ice storms and, limbs fall off trees and break the fence. And then the cows look and they go, wow, that looks good over there. The other side of the fence. And so, we race over and fix it as quickly as we can. Okay. Dr. Shealy, if a person did everything right, starting before birth, let's say the parents did everything right, they were getting ready a year in advance to have a child, they ate properly, the best, whatever the best is, they did that. And they got exercise, everything was just perfect before conception, a year before conception. And then the child did everything right, whatever that is, sleep, exercise, diet, avoiding pollutions, all different kinds of pollution, doing everything right, no vaccinations, everything right. How long would a person live, giving the optimal set of circumstances and planning? How long could a person live?
Well, if everybody just had those good health habits, average life would be 100 years, plus or minus 5 or 10 because of genetics. But so average American is now 79 years, and that we lose 21 or 22 years of average life because of general unhealthy habits.
Okay, so we're down 20%.
Well, actually 21.
From that, yeah. I was just kind of rounding. Yes, we're down 21%. That's ridiculous.
Well,
that's ridiculous.
Average American habit is ridiculous.
Well, we're down 21%. So if a person had an IQ of 100 and then didn't do everything right and got themselves down to an IQ of 79, that's like 9 points above incontinence, right? Is that really what?
Well, it's pretty stupid. That means the average American is beyond stupid.
Well, that's the point, yeah.
Remember, only 2.3% of Americans have all the health habits. Only 2.3%. So actually, 97.3% of Americans have 1 to 5 unhealthy habits.
Dr. Shealy, I'm looking out the window at the farm, and I needed to get something and help our son. So I was in the house. I saw him need something. I looked out the window just to check on him, and he was unloading a large trailer with a large tractor on it. And so I proactively figured out what I thought he needed, and I walked out there. Now, I could have hopped in the Jeep. I could have hopped on a four-wheeler. I could have hopped on a dirt bike, but I walked out there. So round trip, it was only a quarter of a mile maybe, but I chose to do that because I thought it would be better for me to just get that little brisk, fast walk out there and back. Now, if I had to carry something, 50 pounds, I probably would have put it in a Jeep and done that, or put it on a four-wheeler and done that. But I just had some hand tools, and off I went. But I don't think that's common. I think people are taking the easy way out. And what I'm seeing here at the farm is more vehicles are showing up that our son is working on that have wheelchair or scooter ramps. So people who can get around are now looking at what kind of a vehicle should I have that can transport my scooter around so I can drive the vehicle, hop in the scooter, push a remote control button, lower the ramp, get out and ride across the parking lot to Walmart, go through Walmart, get the stuff, they want to get, put it in a scooter basket, then ride through the checkout and then ride to their car and then push the button, get on the ramp and get back in the van. Now, there are people who are doing that who I believe could get by with a walker.
Below 90.
Yeah.
That is beyond.
But that's what we're doing today. That's what we're doing today. And on the other side of the equation, you've got Sonny Skidmore who's saying, I don't want to be in a wheelchair. I want to walk around. Okay.
Well, she's got more common sense than the average person.
I really wanted you to meet her before all this happened, and circumstances didn't work out because she's 6 hours away round trip. But she is a dynamo, absolutely. Dr. Shealy, she is running her radio station from her hospital bed. She literally, she's on the phone. She's directing, administrating, managing, selling, advertising, and meeting with people, get new clients from the nursing home. And she wants to get out of there. And we're going to call her again after the top of the hour. But I've got a bunch more questions for you. Class, we were talking with Dr. Norm Shealy, normshealy.com. And I've got a compliment for you, Dr. Shealy. I'll tell you when we come back. Dr. Norm Shealy's list. Dr. Shealy, I wanted to tell you that Mrs. Spinelli came up to me during the break, and she said, would you please thank Dr. Shealy? I said, sure. She said she placed an order for some supplements for someone else through your organization. And she spoke with a gal by the name of Angie. And she wanted you to know that Angie was absolutely delightful. She took care of the order promptly. Now, class, this is not a commercial. This is something that Mrs. Finelli asked me to convey to Dr. Shealy, and I thought this would be a good time to do it. So she was really, really impressed with your staff and the way they handled the purchase of your supplements that my wife placed today. So I just want to tell you that.
Thank you.
And
in general, that's the way I feel about them as well. They're remarkably good.
Mm-hmm. And I happened to chat with Angie on Friday, and my reaction was exactly the same as Mrs. Finelli's. And I didn't say to her, "Oh, you got to call Angie." I didn't say that. I just said, "Would you please make this phone call for me and place this order?" And so she did, and her reaction was the same. So, class, I want to tell you, I'm going to give you the telephone number. This is not a commercial. This is an endorsement, okay, from me to Dr. Shealy's organization. This is where we get the supplements that you would be getting. So if you call, here's a phone number. And Dr. Shealy, I wanted to give the telephone number for Angie, if that's okay. Is that okay with you?
Of course.
Okay. Class, 417-467-2124. 417-467-2124. That's the telephone number for Dr. Shealy's supplements if you decide that you want to take the same supplements that our family takes. Dr. Shealy, I wanted to tell you a kind of a funny story, if I may. It involves one of our boys. And our boys have been having a really difficult time meeting the right person, meeting the equivalent of your wife for you or my wife for me. So on Friday, after the broadcast, I went out to the shop, and our son was working out there. And so I said, need any help? And so I was chatting with him, and I said, so what are your plans for next few days? And that's something that we do. We share what our plans are, and so that we all work together and pull the same direction rather than all go scattering off and no one knowing what's going on. So we all know what's going on. So I said, tell me about your plans. And he said, well, he might be seeing this girl. And I said, do I know her? No. This is someone he just met. I said, okay. So tell me about her. He said, well, she's not having a good day. And I said, so, all right, why is that? He said, well, she got this big chemistry test, and she may not be prepared for it. So she's kind of apprehensive. And I said, uh-huh. And he said, but I gave her an incentive. He said, I told her that if she gets a C or better, he would take her out for tacos. And then he said, he told her that if she got less than a C, she could have the free chips and salsa that come with his taco. So sometimes you wonder how well you've raised your children. And I don't know where he got that, but I thought that was hysterical. Anyway, so he hasn't seen her because she hasn't given him the results of her chemistry test. But just a little sidetrack there. So the importance of positive mental attitude, Dr. Shealy, how important is it in our lives, whatever we may be doing?
The number one important thing at the top of the list. More important than all other things combined.
Really? So if for example, Sonny Skidmore wants to walk, she has to really have the right attitude going into it, as compared to, I don't know if I can do this. Maybe it's going to be tough. It's going to take a lot of...
You got it.
Well, all right. So I had that discussion with her on the phone off the air during the weekend. She gave me a call, and she said she wasn't sure if the prosthesis person was going to go forward with building a prosthesis for her. And I said, Sonny, I think what I'm hearing is that this man is saying, well, based on my experience, most people don't want to do it. They give up. It doesn't work so well. I said, but that's not you. So he can't go by his experience in your case, because look at you. Look at what you're doing. You're running the radio station from a bed. It sounds to me like you really want this to happen. So make sure he knows that you have the desire, the attitude, and the persistence to make all this work. And I think maybe that will sway him. But we're going to call Sonny again a couple times in the next 15 or 20 minutes, Dr. Shealy, and we'll see if we can get it back on the air. Class, Dr. Norm Shealy's with us, normshealy.com. And one of my questions coming up next after the top of the hour break is carbon and as a detoxifier. Dr. Shealy's with us, normshealy.com. So in the South, it's y'all. In the North, it's yous guys. And here in Missouri, it's youans. So I probably should have said, youans blissed. Great. Dr. Shealy, carbon or activated charcoal. We keep that here in our supplies, so that if we get a spider bite, and we'll just make a poultice with it and put it under a Band-Aid and pull the toxins out of that spider bite. And I got one. I got a recluse bite, and I literally took the equivalent of a Berkey water filter, and I took a clean knife, and I scraped the activated charcoal off the side of the Berkey water filter, and made a little poultice with some filtered water and put this poultice on the bite, put a Band-Aid over it, and by the next morning that blue bullseye ring was gone, except for the area that was outside of the poultice. So I made a bigger poultice, and the size of a quarter this time, put a bigger Band-Aid on it, and by the next day it was all gone. So what about using activated charcoal as a detoxifier? They sell it at... okay.
By mouth. It's a wonderful I keep capsules for that reason.
Mm-hmm. And what would you use? We keep them here, too. What are some of the uses for the activated charcoal capsules? And they're very inexpensive, class, maybe $3
well,
for a box.
Who knows? It's so rare that I use it, but it would be a little nausea, feeling something wasn't right in my gut, diarrhea. It's an excellent cover, control for some cases of diarrhea. Mm-hmm. And anytime you just feel as if the stomach isn't quite right.
Okay. I met a guy in Virginia, and this guy had, I think he was in his 30s at the time, maybe 32, 33. He was a healthy guy, and he loved outdoor activities. He liked kayaking and canoeing and mountain climbing, things like that. But he had hip surgery, and he had a hip replacement. And I asked him about that, and he said that he decided to go stainless steel on stainless steel. This is back in the 90s. And my thought was, every time he takes a step, he's going to be putting stainless steel into his body or his bloodstream. Is that correct?
Well, not necessarily, but because a scar will form around that, and to a large extent, the scar is thick enough not to absorb very much. So maybe for the first 6 weeks, that is true, but after that, I would expect it not to significantly change.
Okay. And my concern was, he was told by his orthopedic surgeon, do not overdo this. Don't go doing the things that you used to do, because you can really damage your body by,
Well, that's true. I mean, stainless steel is not as good as your own bone and cartilage.
Mm-hmm. And so that was maybe 30 years ago that, or maybe even more, that I had this discussion, but it came to my mind this morning. And then the next thing that came to my mind is, okay, so if with each step he were putting stainless steel into his bodies, stainless steel atoms, if you will, or molecules, nickel and whatever else is in stainless steel, maybe some chromium, heavy metals, would the activated charcoal pull them out of his body?
Now, that I don't know. I know no evidence of it being a chelator. In other words, once it's deposited into the tissues and no longer running around in the gut, I wouldn't expect the carbon to do much.
Okay. So if someone did want to chelate the heavy metals from this type of surgery, a foreign body, a foreign joint in the body, or dental amalgam fillings, or whatever, screws or plates, whatever it might be in the body that was put there by a medical professional, if you will, even a bullet wound that might be put there by someone who's not a medical professional. What would be the chelating?
EDTA.
Okay.
EDTA, or if it's a silver amalgam filling, which is 50 to 60% mercury, DMSA is better than EDTA. And but you ought to get those fillings removed. Everybody should electively have removed from their mouth those blank, so-called silver, which are 50 to 60% mercury fillings. They're poison.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the EDTA for just a second. So how does that work? What would be the amount a person would take? Can a person take it just, well, shoot, I think I might have some something in my body that I want to chelate out? Can a person just say, I don't know what it is, but I want to try it anyway? Would that be safe or not?
Well, there is an over-the-counter on the internet available thing called Chelex, Chelex. I don't remember how many milligrams are in there, but I believe the recommended dose is 4 times a day. And it actually can reverse atherosclerosis.
Atherosclerosis. Can you tell us what that means for us in the
hardening of the arteries, plaque in the arteries, the precursor of coronary artery disease, the stuff that plugs your arteries.
Back in the 60s, I remember that term, hardening of the arteries. It was getting more and more common. It was almost like, well, as you get older, you're going to have hardening of the arteries. I mean, that was what it seemed to be like that I was hearing. So, Chelex, Chelex, is there any risk in taking that, Dr. Shealy?
In general, no. Now, like everything else, an occasional person is going to have an irritable gut or diarrhea, and they have to cut down on the dose. But in general, it's very safe.
Well, that sounds like something I would like to try, really, just based on this short discussion that we're having for the first time. It sounds like I would like to do that. Is there any reason why I shouldn't do that, Dr. Shealy, or Mrs. Fennell? No. Okay. All right. Chelex. All right. And EDTA, you mentioned that. Is that that's a
major
generic
component of Chelex, yes.
Okay. And how would you recommend taking EDTA?
Well, there are other companies that make it. I don't know them well enough to recommend it. I trust Chelex above all of them.
Okay. All right. And what was that other that you recommended?
EMSA. Now, that one requires a prescription. You have to get it from a pharmacy.
Okay. All right. So what would, if a person wanted to pursue that, would they mention that to their doctor that they are interested in that, or is that something that the doctor would automatically say?
The average physician knows nothing about it.
Yeah, that's why I asked. Okay, so they have to come to you, or would you recommend that?
Well, of course.
Okay. All right. And that's E as in Edward, MSA?
D as in David.
Oh, David. Okay. D.
David,
MSA.
Mary, Sam, Apple.
Okay. DMSA. Okay. Very good. Why is it that whenever I go for a checkup, the first thing that happens is I am asked to get on the scale for being weighed? Why is that it happens every single time, Dr. Shealy? It doesn't matter everybody gets weighed. Why is that?
Well, they look at your height and your weight to see whether you're overweight, because every pound or two overweight increases your risk of all kinds of disease.
Okay. They don't find that with me or Mrs. Fennell or actually anybody in our family. Okay.
Now,
but
we three are well in the healthy level of weight.
Okay. I find myself, Dr. Shealy, limiting my portions. When I was younger, I would have big heaping plates of whatever. Now I try to balance way more, and I try to stay just a little bit hungry. Not hungry, but just a little bit hungry. So if I were to eat 100 units of whatever it is, or if I could gorge myself and eat 100 units, I might eat 75 because I don't want to.
Interestingly, when I was 11 or 12 years of age, I gained a little bit of weight. And my aunt who advised me, never fill your stomach till you feel full. Always stop short of feeling full. Mm-hmm. That's how I lost the weight back at that age, and I've never really been overweight since then.
Mm-hmm. So it's okay to not eat until you go, oh, I can't move.
Gorged.
Okay. All right. So then the next question is, right after I'm weighed, the next thing is they take my temperature, and like the nurse will take my temperature and blood pressure. Why is that done, and what is determined from those three things: weight, blood pressure, and temperature?
Well, blood pressure, of course, is whether or not you're at risk of having hypertension. And so they want to be sure about that. That's the reason for the blood pressure. And then your temperature, of course, as I said, the best indication of that is your thyroid function.
Okay. One day, I was at a meetup with you, and we were getting ready to start. And I was sitting in a booth opposite you, and we were talking about you were going to go on stage, as it were, and teach a seminar at the restaurant. And so I had my arms, I guess I would say my wrists, on the table, and I was leaning toward you, and we were talking, and you were doing the same thing. And then you reached over and held in each one of your hands each of my hands. So you held my hands across the table, almost like we were saying a prayer or something. Now, this is my take on this, and I could be completely wrong, but I believe that you as a medical doctor, as a surgeon, as a physician, can tell about a person's health by looking into their eyes, by looking at their hair, by looking at their skin, by looking at their posture, their gait, and gauging their temperature. Is that true?
Yes.
Is that why you do that?
Well, that's part of it. And, of course, it's also friendship.
Yes.
I mean, I do want people to feel comfortable. And obviously, you and I are friends from the beginning, and so that it's just a habit.
Mm-hmm. 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 Well, I got to tell you that I really don't see those kinds of interactions with doctors and their patients. Typically today, the doctor does not see the patient walk. The patient is already in the examination room and is already sitting down, and then the examination begins with no movement. We'll be right back. Dr. Norm Shealy's with us, and we're trying to reach Sunny Skidmore, but the phone is going unanswered. She's probably in therapy, but we'll let you know when we get her. Dr. Shealy, one of the things that you mentioned that I keep thinking about it a lot, and that is you do not want to be on tap 24/7, and neither do I. And class, so I just want to give you a little bit of personal experience. I don't have a cell phone, and because I don't have a cell phone, people can't call me. So they used to call me and say, "Hey, how come you don't answer your phone?" Well, I don't say that anymore. I have literally trained our friends to understand that just because they call does not mean I'm going to answer the phone.
Well, you know what my message says.
Well, why don't you tell our class? I do know what your message says.
Hi, this is Norm. Thanks for calling. If you're a friend, leave a message. If I do not know you, do not leave more than 2 sentences and a phone number which I may or may not call. Mm-hmm. I don't get practically any junk messages.
Yeah. So you've trained those who call you to understand that you are not available 24 hours a day, and don't leave these book length messages because it gets really frustrating. All you want to do is get that person's name, a quick essence of why the call's been made to you, and the return phone number. Period. That's it. And then you can determine quickly if it's something that's urgent and you need to jump on, call right back, or whether it's just a message and they want to let you know something. But I used to get messages that were really, really long, and so I didn't respond to them. And they stopped leaving those kinds of messages. And then people would send me long emails, and I wouldn't respond to them either. And I would tell people that if you want to send me an email, it's got to be brief, and I might read it. But I don't have time. I frankly don't have time to be the entertainment for people who are bored. I do not have that time.
Or try to sell you junk.
Right. I got a call from a guy, telemarketer, and I've been answering the phone, Texaco, Pizza Hut. So this, I didn't recognize this one number, and I happened to be walking by the phone. I saw it on the screen for caller ID, and so I said, type 7. He says, hello? Type 7. hello, type 7. Finally, he gave up because I wouldn't respond with anything other than type 7, and he didn't know what that meant. And neither do I. But that's what I did. So I just want to say that you do not have to be on tap 24/7 class. Dr. Shealy, I bought on the internet, I found a microscope, a stereo microscope, meaning 2 eyepieces, and it's a lab quality, like hospital lab quality, and something told me to buy this, and it was used, and I mean it is a really nice microscope made by a company called American Optical. So it's a quality piece of gear. I'll bet you that darn thing is $2,000 new, like $50 or $60 on the internet. I don't know why I bought it, but I bought it because I wanted to look at small things. What can I do with a quality microscope, Dr. Shealy, in terms of health? Is there anything that I can use it for?
Well, unless you know what you're looking for, no. I mean, you have to have some idea of what you're looking for, because you can see, very small things up to medium-sized things, and you get more detail. But, I would know how to look at a red blood cell and white blood cell and distinguish that under the microscope and things like that. But even then, if I were looking for a bacteria, just looking under the microscope wouldn't tell me enough.
Okay, I was wondering if something told me to do this, and if I looked at water, would I see things that would be disturbing in just well water?
Oh, yes. You could have all kinds of dust and metal and heaven only knows what else in your water.
How about things that wiggle and move?
Well, now, that would be very worrisome. That would be potential parasites.
Okay. Now, if I take unfiltered water from a well and I look at it in a microscope and I see things wiggling and moving, that tells me that I would want to shock the well with chlorine and then flush it, right?
Right.
Okay. All right.
It's one of the
Next
reasons
question.
that I have ultraviolet on my well water coming out, so it helpfully sterilizes things before they get there.
Yeah. Okay, I've got another question about an oscilloscope when we come back. So, Dr. Shealy, I called Bert Bertonis, one of our instructors out in California, and I mentioned to him that I was interested in looking at all kinds of things on the wire. I was interested in looking at the electric power lines, and I was interested in looking at all kinds of frequencies, and I was even interested in building an antenna and attaching that to an oscilloscope and see if I could pick up enough signal from the air that I could see it on an oscilloscope. He thought that was kind of interesting, and he said, "Well, heck, I've got one, an oscilloscope," and he would send it to me. I said, "No, I want to buy it." So he sent me a Tektronix oscilloscope, and I paid him for it, and I'm all excited. Now, I haven't used it yet, but what can a farmer do with an oscilloscope, Dr. Shealy?
Well, you can find out how much noise you have electrically coming into your house.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. It certainly will show you if there's, dangerous frequencies coming into your house. I've never looked at it from that point of view, but I would think it could be very useful.
So I actually know 2 farmers who have an oscilloscope, Dr. Shealy. You being the other one. In Pennsylvania, they're going to spend $3 million to study a cancer cluster of dozens of children and young adults in counties where there are over 3,500 new fracking wells that were drilled in the last decade, in the last 10 years. So since 2008, energy companies have drilled more than 3,500 new oil and natural gas wells outside of Pittsburgh, PA. And they use this fracking, and they, fracture the ground, and it's been releasing toxic gases like benzene that have been linked to shortness of breath and wheezing and higher cancer risks. I can't believe the stupidity people think that they can drill holes in the ground, take oil out, and that, it's not going to leave a void. Nothing's going to go back in there. It's not going to disturb anything. We can burn the oil. and we won't damage the atmosphere, and we can set off explosions underground, sending all kinds of fissures and cracks through the ground, and that's okay because it doesn't cause any harm. This is beyond stupid to me. Dr. Shealy, are your thoughts, are you thinking the same way, that this fracking is dangerous because of the sarcoma and other cancers and respiratory effects of having toxins enter our underground water supply as a result of fracking?
Right on. Absolutely. And remember, our water supply may be affected for hundreds of miles.
Right. Hundreds of miles. So, whole house water filter, to keep out the sediment. Carbon block filter at the drinking level. So that's what we do. We have a carbon block filter. We use ProPure, but you can use Berkey, and I suggest that you do that. Dr. Shealy, you even have filtered water in your clinic.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember seeing, for your patients.
Yeah.
And
I want to get rid of city water. City water is as bad as it gets.
Yeah, it is. And I don't know any way around it. I know what happens when you try to stop fluoride in Springfield, Missouri. I know what happens because I was there and I tried to do it, and I gave out the. Have you heard anybody say anything about that at the radio station where you broadcast? That there was this guy that used to be on there that complained about fluoride in the water, and they got rid of him. Have you heard that?
And I've mentioned it a dozen times or more on my radio show, and people don't even call in and ask about it.
They don't?
Every week I recommend they fire every election. They vote out the entire general council, and nobody comments on it.
Unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. Because I remember, you warning people about fluoride, and I picked up the mantle also, and many times for almost every broadcast I did, it was every day in Springfield, I would mention that, and I would give out the city manager's number. Greg Burris was his name at the time. And I told people that we're paying him $200,000 a year, and he's poisoning everybody who drinks city water or eats food at a restaurant in Springfield, Missouri. And I got the message from the front office at the radio station, please knock it off, because City Hall is complaining that we are tying up their phone lines because so many people called and wanted fluoride out of the water. But they weren't going to do it. So what City Hall did was they said, it's not us, we didn't do it, and then call city utilities because they put the fluoride in the water. You call city utilities, and they say, it's not us, it comes from City Hall. They're telling us to do it. So I got stuck in this circular loop, and I couldn't figure out exactly who was doing it. So I figured, we'll just go to the top. Go to the guy who writes the checks for the fluoride. That would be the city manager. He's the guy that ultimately approves all this. So I gave out his name and number. And City Hall complained. They complained to the radio station. They asked me to back off and knock it off. And I actually thought it was a suggestion. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a warning. And so I got to retire early from the radio broadcast in Springfield, Missouri. Because on a Friday, I broadcasted, and on a Monday, they didn't know who I was anymore. That's how it works. That's literally how it works. So it's impossible, almost impossible, to get fluoride out of the water, except for Bolivar, Missouri. They did it, right, Dr. Shealy? You have an associate, at least a medical professional a doctor who was on the board. He was mayor, wasn't he? And he said, you know what?
Interestingly, he said they did it to cut expenses.
Right. Well,
I'll take any excuse to get rid of that crud.
Yeah, and it worked by saying it's just too expensive. Okay, so fracking, we're not in favor of fracking, that's for sure. Globalists are now openly admitting to their population control agenda. So eugenics and population control they have been the concern of the financial elites for a long time. In the early 1900s, the Rockefeller Foundation and the Carnegie Institute were involved in promoting eugenics laws in the United States. And these laws led to forced sterilization of over 60,000 Americans. in places like California. And even marriage licenses were rejected based on eugenics. So, and this was exported to Germany in the 1930s, the Third Reich, where they were working on a true widespread eugenics-based population control system. That would be the Nazis in the 30s. Dr. Shealy, I believe that you have mentioned the Club of Rome a number of times. Those guys are implicated in the eugenics and in population control. Your thoughts?
It's just a part of the broader thing called the Committee of 300. The Committee of 300 has been around since the 1700s, and the Queen of England is the head honcho, and the Bank of England actually owns, is totally independent of Parliament. It's a nation unto itself, and it's all part of the Committee of 300, which aims to reduce the population of the world to about 750,000 people. That's a 90% decrease.
That's absolutely huge. So, class, if there are 10 of you all sitting or standing, chatting, or sitting, chatting, it means only one of you will be left when they're done. 1 out of 10. Dr. Shealy, I was watching a brilliant series on the internet called The Nick. T-H-E, next word, Nick. K-N-I-C, K, as in the Knickerbocker. And it was about the Knickerbocker Hospital in New York City during, let's say, 1900. And they were experimenting with people, and they were looking for cadavers. And during the surgeries, they used cocaine. Cocaine seemed to be really popular during surgery. What was the reason for that, Dr. Shealy?
I guess the only reason would be stupidity.
Okay.
I mean, there's no logical reason.
Okay. And so they would use, I guess, ether to put the person out during surgery, right? They just put ether in a rag, put it over the face, and they just... What does the ether do to a person?
Well, it essentially anesthetizes the brain. I mean,
okay.
It's a soporific, if you will, the ultimate soporific.
Okay. And is there a danger of too much ether in that rag that's put over the face?
Well, of course. I mean, I've never done anesthesia personally. It's always done by a trained nurse or physician. But I don't know what the risk would be, in percentages or whatever. But yeah, you could kill somebody with it, of course.
Okay. There was one episode where this woman, I would think that she was in her late 20s, early 30s probably, and she had glasses on. She came into the main character's office, if you will, doctor's office, and she had on glasses that covered her eyes, and she had this cover over her nose as if there were a shielding from, the sun, as if this were a person who would get sunburn on the nose. But when she took her glasses off, her nose had decayed and it was missing, and you could see part of the cartilage of the nose. It had turned black, and they alluded to a sexually transmitted disease. Is there such a thing? Would it be syphilis, or it looked kind of like what our memory of leprosy would be like, but of the nose and face? Is there such a thing?
But I've never seen any such thing. But I can think that it could be. I've seen gonorrhea even do that.
Okay, well, maybe I was wrong with the syphilis, but okay. So
that
gonorrhea.
Could be. I mean, I saw one man who actually had no genitals left. It looked like a volcano had erupted, and there was this dead, horrible-looking skin, and he couldn't urinate anymore.
Hmm. Okay, so this skin had turned black because this gal's nose was...
Yeah,
what was,
it can rot.
okay.
Actually, that's called rotting.
Okay, so
Right.
with this is... Are we saying that this is like a horrific result of a sexually transmitted disease? Is that what this is?
Probably. But cancer can do the same thing.
Yeah. Well, they alluded to she got it from her husband, and in this.
But that
in this
sounds sexual.
And her husband had been running around, but that's what that story was. Okay, when we come back, let's talk about space. And there's an alarming discovery that has been made in the bloodstream and clotting in the eyes of those who are orbiting Earth in the International Space Station. We'll be right back. Dr. Norm Shealy is with us, class. If you'd like to go to the website, all the information is there, how to contact him, how to buy the supplements, how to set up an appointment, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. And Dr. Shealy, during the break, I asked Alex if he had any medical questions, and he came up with a great one. And he, happy birthday, Alex. I believe he's 21. And so...
He's a lucky guy. He's a Sagittarius.
Yeah. And he asked about hangovers. Now, I have no idea why Alex would ask about hangovers. It's beyond my comprehension. But as a young person, he wanted to know what a person could do about hangovers.
Take 100 milligrams of B complex, 100 milligrams of all the basic Bs. That's the single best thing. Mm-hmm. And then I would also take something called N-acetylcysteine, NAC, 600 milligrams.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, when someone comes into the emergency room, they have they've consumed too much alcohol. They have what's called a banana bag, and that's they call it that because it's kind of a yellowish liquid in an IV, and that I believe has B complex.
Yeah,
in it as well.
100 milligrams, especially of B1.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that I know for a fact that vitamin B complex and a great big glass of water before going to bed will absolutely works. I know that for sure, which is, I believe, what you were saying. But the big glass of water is what I took. If I went to a party or something and I did not want to be overhung in the morning, I would take vitamin B complex and a big glass of water. And I'd be the only one who wasn't overhung in the morning or hungover in the morning. Everybody else, just like that sound on some of our commercials here on GCN. But absolutely works. There's been a discovery in space, Dr. Shealy, about astronauts. And so they're orbiting the Earth, and they don't have the same gravity effects that we do. And what's happening is their blood is starting to clot differently from those of us down here on the ground. And they're finding out that the eyeballs are changing shape as well. All of this is believed to be as a result of less gravity. So the eyesight of those astronauts subject to orbiting the Earth are finding that it's different up there than it is down here. And of course it is. But they're now starting to admit and see, medical professionals are admitting and seeing these changes. You have any thoughts on this? We're talking about blood that's clotting, and couldn't that damage our lungs, our legs, our limbs, our eyes,
brain.
our brains,
everything?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not a safe profession.
And so when we think about, well, if we just damage the Earth, no problem, we'll just get in a rocket and, go to Mars, or we'll just colonize the moon. We haven't figured this out. We don't know. We don't know what it's really going to be like because we haven't done it. At least I don't believe we've done it. I mean, people have said, yeah, we landed on the moon, walked around, got back in a rocket, came back home. I don't believe it for a second. But anyway, that was just one question I had. And getting back to the globalists limiting population, wouldn't it be better if we just used the earth more responsibly, polluted less, used less, wasted less, and so forth?
Wouldn't it be better
Wouldn't that be better?
People had common sense, the uncommon commodity.
I was talking at the kitchen table last night with a visitor, and I mentioned that the difference between oil filters in the United States and oil filters in Europe. So Mercedes uses a cartridge oil filter, which has the filter element, and in the United States we use spin-on oil filters with a can around the filter element. And I said that I believe that's because in Germany there's less space, and they're more careful with what they throw away because it's starting to pile up. But in the United States we have so much land, we can have extra trash, extra packaging, and we don't really give a darn. We just throw it away until we get to the point where we go, uh-oh, we're running out of space. Then we'll switch to cartridge filters and less packaging and so forth. I don't know how to fix this. I just don't know how, because people are too stupid. Just as you found, you can't get people to call up about fluoride. It's killing them, and they're drinking it in their tea, in their coffee, in their soda, in their food. When we figure this out, Dr. Shealy, let's tell our class what to do, but it's hard to get people to pay attention.
Good luck.
Yeah. Hey, Dr. Shealy, thank you so much. And if you could give Angie one of those Atta-girls and the rest of your staff an Atta-girl or an Atta-boy, whichever they deserve, please do that on our behalf because they really are fabulous.
Thank you so much, Ben. Have a good one. Happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, Dr. Shealy. NormShealy.com.